Hello and welcome to the latest Lukozer retro game review video. And for this one, well, the title sequence here should have told you, except, well, alright, call me Mr. Pedantic if you will, but they got the title wrong. Indeed, the publishers also got the title wrong. This is X Out. If it was cross out, it would be spelt C-R-O-S-S, new word O-U-T, but it isn't. There's an X there, so as far as I'm concerned, it's X Out. Besides which, when the sequel to this game came along, it was called Z Out, and the publishers then weren't saying, oh no, it's maybe spelt Z out, but it's pronounced stroke wobbler mangrove. No, they didn't do it for that one. So I am absolutely sticking with X out as far as this game is concerned. So anyway, this is for the Commodore Amiga, released by Rainbow Arts in 1990. Now, this is a shoot 'em up with a bit of a difference. Firstly, it's set underwater, and yeah, okay, you may think there's nothing remarkable about that, but I mean, we were getting to a stage now where people were getting pretty desperate for things to make shoot 'em ups seem new. So setting it somewhere other than space was doing quite enough to begin with. Oh, I really needed that. Anyway, they did, however, come up with something very new that I hadn't seen before in any arcade shooter, and I don't recall seeing it since. And that is this section here where you first start. Now, this bloke here whose face keeps appearing in this, like, bloody, I don't know, deep sea diver's helmet or something, and he keeps sticking his tongue out and growling at you. I don't know why he does that. I don't know why he's there, because he's not interactive in any way. This weird thing down here in the corner is interactive to a degree. It's not going to let me actually choose anything yet, but it's sort of like the place where you junk things that you've selected and then decided, no, maybe I don't want to do that after all. So what you do here, this is basically a ship configuration screen. So you have a choice of ships, these four here. Top one is cheapest, bottom one's most expensive, shouldn't really surprise you. I'll go for the cheapest one. So now, with this thing set up, you have quite a few options as far as setting out your weapons and setting out your lives. If you buy just this one ship, then that's it, you get one life. So you can buy a second ship, and boss, there it is as your second life. I'm not going to do that, so we'll junk that and you'll see the animation on this thing. There you go, wasn't that lovely? Now, I was never overly adventurous with my power-ups for the first level, largely because you really didn't need to be. So I put the three-way fire on, and I would have one of these things here which I would select to move ahead of me. I didn't really use a whole hell of a lot else, largely because I couldn't afford them. Okay, so I think that's the thing you use if you hold down the fire button. We'll soon find out, because I've only got 550 left. I think you start with 12,000, but a large amount of that is taken up with buying your actual ship. So let's give that configuration a bash, and here we go with loading the next level. The game does have quite a lot of disk accessing, but they, instead of having it sitting there in complete silence, they put in this jingle. I must admit, although this jingle is quite simple, I think it sounds fucking brilliant, which is a good job really, because you hear it a hell of a lot. and it sort of takes your mind off the amount of loading and amount of disk accessing there is. Something this simple, but it works. The only other game I know that did it was Agony. The trouble with Agony is that in between listening to the great jingles, you had to play a really shitty shoot 'em up in between. So while this is still loading, it's horizontal shoot 'em up, but the levels are actually right. We're now loaded, so we can show you. So here we have my. There you go. That's holding down the fire button there. So that's what that extra weapon does. Now it's as you can see, is a horizontal shoot 'em up, but the levels are large-ish and scroll up and down as well, a bit like you could say Nemesis did. I'm forever making comparisons between every fucking shoot 'em up and Nemesis. Not really much excuse for that, but well, I am. So now, in terms of graphics, it's reasonable enough without being remarkable. In terms of music, I say I love the jingle. The in-game music isn't particularly fantastic, and the sound effects are, let's be honest, piss poor. This is not the... oh, fucking hell. That was a fuck up. That was not the end of level boss. That's a mid-level boss that, well, shouldn't have been as difficult as... well, it's not difficult at all. It's just that I fucked it up by backing up too far and ploughing into some of the fucking background. So, yeah, not exactly a fantastic go there. So let's try and pretend that didn't happen, even though it's going on the YouTube video. I don't hide from my fuck ups. If I fuck up a game, I'll still put it up anyway. And yes, that was a dig towards people who do. Right, so now we wait again. You can see what I mean about there is a hefty amount of loading and disk accessing. It's not the worst game I've ever played for it. There are far worse out there. Let's try a different ship. The better the ship, the more energy they have, which means they can take more damage, but of course they are more expensive. Let's see if this one... oh, it looks like it's in my price range. Can't afford that though, or that, or that. I can afford that, but that's a bit weedy. I can't afford the big one. Can't remember what the missiles actually do. I can't remember if they fire automatically or not. I suspect not. Anyway, right, that's the ship configured. Off we go. Now, guess what happens next? Yep, more disk accessing. And it's back with the jingle. I've only had one warm-up go prior to doing this video, and I managed to get to the boss at level 1, so of course it's typical that now I'm doing the video. My first go was the worst go I've had on this game in, what, 24 years. Yeah, still waiting for disk accessing. I don't have the sound of the disk being used on the emulator because WinUAE does actually use the display on the G19 keyboard here, so I can see on the display here that it is accessing the disk, and I can also see that it's taking a fucking age. Hurry up! Here we go. Right. I'll tell you what, I better fucking last longer this time, so here we go. So those missiles do fire automatically, that's quite handy, considering I've forgotten what they did. This was a game that I had back in the day, and it was one of those games that I would normally not have bothered with, but I got the demo disc, or the demo of the game rather, on a disc that came with Amiga format. And I was impressed enough to say, fuck it, I'll have some of that. So I went and bought it, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's not, say, the actual gameplay itself is not what you would call revolutionary. But the way that you select your weapons and your loadouts and everything else with the ship is quite revolutionary, and it's quite well done. I say I'd never seen it before on any shooter, and I liked it. I liked the way it was done a hell of a lot. This thing, as he rises, he has a shield covering, but once he gets in line with your ship, he then goes back down with his shield off. So that's when you have to then shoot the cunt. So onwards through the rest of the level. I think the having the game set underwater is novel. So it may not be massively revolutionary, but it makes a change from the usual fucking space set shooters. So why not have it underwater, eh? As you can hear, well, I've already mentioned it, the sound effects are pretty piss poor, but so I like the music. It's a good job I like that jingle, because as I say, you hear it fucking often enough. Oh, that shot hit me. You do have an energy meter. Here we are with the first boss. Now it starts off innocuously enough. You have to shoot these tube things, and then you have to shoot it in the head, and that's usually when I get killed. And because I only get the one life, because I don't bother with, there you go, with the extra life, it kills me. Obviously, my strategy of only getting the one ship, and therefore only having one life, is not a good strategy if you haven't played this game for 24 years, 25 years, like me. So it's probably a good idea to invest in a ship that's a little more basically loaded out, but it will mean that you can get more than one. So there you go, that's X out. And I am a fan. I do like the way that you can decide, exactly how many lives you have, how well kitted out your ship is at the start of each level. I think that's quite a novel idea, and it works really well. So I like the presentation. I like the music. The sound effects. The sound effects are shit, and graphically, it's not exactly revolutionary, but I mean they're good enough. I mean they're certainly nowhere near as good as anything like Hybris or Xenon 2, but they're fine. And gameplay, it is a relatively standard shoot 'em up, but because of the flexibility that you have with regards to your power-ups and everything else, it still has, I think, replayability, and it's still a decent game. So what do I score it? I will give it 7.5 out of 10. I think it's pretty good, and I would recommend that if you haven't played this, give it a go. If you have played it, give it a go anyway. And of course, as I've already alluded to, this game did get a sequel, Throat Wobble and Mangrove, and I will at some point be reviewing that. You can be certain of that. So I've already forgotten what I gave it. 7.5 out of 10, I think. Which yeah, I think that's fair score. So there you go. That's X out. 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good stuff. So that brings this review to an end. and we will see you at the next one.